This is Tim. Tim is 10 years old. Tim has a cat. The cat is named Meow. Tim lives in a house with Meow. This is Mrs. Nelson. Mrs. Nelson and Tim are neighbors. They're neighbors. Mrs. Nelson lives in a house next to Tim. Tim is happy. Meow is happy. But Mrs. Nelson is not happy because Tim has many flowers. Mrs. Nelson has no flowers. Tim has a big house, and Mrs. Nelson has a small house. Tim lives with Meow. Mrs. Nelson lives alone. So, Mrs. Nelson has a fish. And Mrs. Nelson says, "Here, kitty, kitty," with the fish. Meow visits Mrs. Nelson. So, when Meow visits Mrs. Nelson, Mrs. Nelson is happy. She is happy. Mrs. Nelson has a friend. Meow is her friend. Tim sees Meow at Mrs. Nelson's house. Tim visits Mrs. Nelson too. Tim gives Mrs. Nelson flowers. Mrs. Nelson is happy. Mrs. Nelson has two friends. Mrs. Nelson has flowers. Mrs. Nelson visits Tim. Mrs. Nelson visits Tim in his house. Mrs. Nelson gives Tim cookies. Cookies. Mrs. Nelson and Tim are friends. But one day, Meow is gone. Meow is gone. Tim looks in his house. Meow is not there in his house. Tim looks in the flowers. Looks in the flowers. Meow is not in the flowers. Where is Meow? Where is Meow? Tim is sad. Mrs. Nelson is sad. Where is Meow? We will see in the next video.